So a bit about this benign bone tumour. So it's chondroblastoma, so it's a tumour that is kind of derived from cartilage cells. It's very hard in nature, so sometimes very difficult to remove depending on the area. So mine being in the pelvis is possibly one of the most awkward places for it to be, trust me. First time I noticed it was in 2013. So I used to play quite competitive basketball, so I was used to having aches and pains in my groin, lots of strains, etc. I know quite commonly basketball players suffer from what's called impingement syndrome. So when I started to experience the kind of groin pain, I started to up my running. I was actually going to start training to do some 10Ks, and it was just a bit of a niggle, up and down, quite intermittent. Started to get worse, started to notice kind of pins and needles, numbness in my right leg. And being a chiropractor, obviously had my spine checked and I get adjusted regularly anyway. So I knew it wasn't coming from the lower back, which sometimes you can get referred leg pain. So I went to the GP, had an MRI, and they found what appeared to be a tumour. At this point, they didn't know if it was benign, malignant, lytic or blastic, so they're technical terms for types of tumours. So everything moved quite quickly, went in, had a biopsy, and that's when we found it was what was called a chondroblastoma, which is a benign tumour. So from September, it was moving quite quickly, and I was in hospital by November, had the surgery, 4 to 6 weeks, back on my feet. Fast forward to 2016, it started to grow back again, but it remained quite stable. But at this point, because of the surgery in 2013, under constant observation with regular checkups, they were 3 months apart, and then they went to 6 months apart. So I had a checkup in the start of 2018, and it was, say, about as big as a squash ball. We were happy with this because it might stay like that forever. Come July 2018, it had grown something like 30% or so quite significant growth. As a result of that, October 2018, I had quite a major surgery. Scraped as much of the tumour out as they could without damaging the hip socket and without having to put any metal work or titanium in. That was quite an ordeal. I'll do another video on that. I was in hospital for a couple of weeks, 5 months recovery, but bounced back quite well. A year from that, 2019, it had already started to come back again. So from then really, we've monitored it, knowing that the surgery that I'm going to be having on the 29th of this month, it was inevitable, it was a bit of a waiting game. So this is where we are now, this is where we are today, and this is where we'll be having the intra-hemipelvectomy, removing kind of the anterior, so the front column of my pelvis, and replacing it with the titanium bespoke part that is being made in Germany. So I have full faith in it that it is going to work perfectly. So yeah, that's where we're at. So moving forward, I will be giving updates of what's going on, preparation for the surgery, recovery, and then kind of rehab afterwards. And one more thing that I missed, in 2018, just before I was going in for the surgery, a month before, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, just to sprinkle a little bit more stress on an already very stressful situation. And that was probably because of the stress. As you imagine, the emotional stress that I would have been going through. I've had quite a lot of general anaesthetic, so the biopsy before I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes was a month before. So lots of stress going on, so I believe that was one trigger for the diabetes to develop or start. But that is a completely different story. Hope this sheds a bit of light on the journey that I'm going through, and any questions, give me a shout.